Line of Duty cast interview. The first thing you do with the script is check you're not D3ad. Actor Adrian Dunbar is recalling walking down the street in North London recently when a police car came shooting past with its blue lights flashing. "They saw me." By we, Dunbar means creator and writer Jed Mercurio and his ex-police advisors who anchor the heart-pounding show, whose 5th series begins on Sunday, March 31st in a realism that often might mean, for example, that the cast are asked to learn lines consisting entirely of police acronyms. Martin Compston: "There was a line I had that contained 5 acronyms in one sentence," he says. Absolute torture. The first series of Line of Duty, which tells of the fictional police anti-corruption unit A12, went out in June 2012, becoming BBC Two's best performing drama of the preceding 10 years. Series 2 added. Watch Line of Duty Series 5 trailer. Independent. A Lancashire-born former doctor and Royal Air Force officer, Mercurio turned to TV writing in 1994 with his blackly humorous BBC Two hospital drama Cardiac Arrest, which would later be voted the most realistic medical drama of all time by a panel of health professionals. The 52-year, the unexpected often involves killing off a major character early on in a series. Jessica Raines. So, what can fans expect from the new series? Since it features, Graham is reliably menacing, his casting a reunion with Vicky McClure, who plays the other A12 regular DS Kate Fleming. Both actors got "There's a classic Line of Duty" reveal towards the end of the episode, which, without going into details, brought to my mind Conrad's Heart of Darkness. Whether or not any, Mercurio only gives his actors 3 episodes to read at the start of every 6-part series, which Adrian Dunbar says helps keep his acting fresh and in the moment. "You're not making it's very much in the present tense, everything feels now," says executive producer Simon Heath. "It's never written with." The biggest trail of all is the one leading to the identity of the corrupt police mastermind known simply as HACC. Derek Hilton, played by Paul Higgins, appeared to point the finger at Hastings before seeming to identify himself by committing suicide after his own corrupt past was exposed. Dunbar is natural. And then there's the identity of Balaclava Man or Men, one of whom put Arna in a wheelchair, although in the new series he is miraculously up and about on 2 feet, as well as sporting a light beard. Mercurio adds, with the 6th series already commissioned, the big question is how long Mercurio can continue with Line of Duty. "I don't know." Dunbar adds that although fans are desperate for answers, they also want to avoid spoilers. "You'd imagine that Line of Duty Season 5 begins on Sunday, March 31st on BBC One. Related, AAC 12 is back. Hey, race everything.